You love your cat. You know, their favorite spot, their weird little food rituals, the exact sound they make when they want attention. You've done the research. You've bought the good food, the expensive toys, the window perch they mostly ignore, and you still might be making them miserable. Not because you're a bad owner, but because 7 of the most common habits cat owners have habits that feel caring, even affectionate, are things cats genuinely find stressful, threatening, or confusing. One of them, in particular, actually triggers the same physiological fear response as being trapped by a predator. Most owners do it every single day, and there's one habit, a well-intentioned one, that behaviorists now believe is quietly eroding the trust between you and your cat. We'll get there. But first, let's talk about how we got this so wrong to begin with. For most of human history, cats were not pets in the way we understand pets. They were tolerated near humans because they hunted rodents. That relationship was transactional, distant, and critically on the cat's terms. The domestication of dogs took roughly 15,000 years of intensive selective breeding for social bonding. Cats? A 2007 genetic study published in Science magazine found that cat domestication only began about 10,000 years ago and was largely self-directed. They came to us. We didn't train them to want us, which means that underneath your cat's familiarity with you, the routine, the trust, the biscuit making on your lap, there is an animal whose instincts were never rewired the way a dog's were. And that gap between how we treat cats and what cats are actually built for, that's exactly where these 7 habits live. Let's start with the one that looks the most harmless. Habit 1, forcing eye contact or prolonged staring. Here's the thing about eye contact. In human culture, it signals honesty, attention, love. In cat culture, it signals threat. A direct, unbroken stare is how cats establish dominance and communicate aggression. It is not a loving gesture. It is a challenge. A woman named Priya had a cat, Shadow, who she assumed was just aloof, shy, unaffectionate. She'd sit across from him, trying to bond, making direct eye contact, willing him to engage. Shadow would always leave. What Priya didn't know was that she was, every single day, telling Shadow she was about to fight him. Research from the University of Sussex found that cats respond significantly better to slow blinking, what researchers call the slow blink, than to direct sustained gaze. The slow blink is essentially a cat saying, "I trust you enough to close my eyes near you." When you stare without blinking, you're sending the exact opposite message. Try it right now with your cat. Slow blink. Look away. Watch what happens. But here's where it gets strange, because the second habit isn't about your eyes. It's about your hands, and specifically about where you put them. Habit 2, petting the belly. After they show it, your cat rolls over. Full belly exposure. You think, invitation. You reach down, and suddenly there are teeth. This is one of the most misread signals in cat behavior. According to certified animal behaviorists at the AVSAB, the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, belly exposure is a sign of comfort and trust. It is not, in most cats, a request to be touched there. The belly is the most vulnerable part of a cat's body. By showing it, they're saying, "I feel safe enough around you to expose this." Touching it without invitation switches the signal from comfort to threat. You've just reached for the one place they instinctively protect. Anecdote: Luna, a 5-year-old tabby in Oregon, had a reputation in her house for being unpredictable. Her owner had Googled, "Why does my cat attack me more times than he could count?" The answer, it turned out, was consistent. It always happened 30 seconds after the belly appeared. Once he understood what she was actually communicating, the biting stopped. Now, forget the belly for a second, because habit 3 is something almost every owner does during an emotionally charged moment. And it backfires in a very specific way. Habit 3, picking them up when they're already stressed. Our cat is hiding under the bed, crouched, ears flat. You can see they're scared. So you reach in and pull them out to comfort them, to hold them, to help. This is the habit I mentioned at the top, the one that triggers that predator capture response. When a cat is already in a threat state, cortisol elevated, pupils dilated, body compressed, being lifted removes their most critical survival option, escape. Research on feline stress responses shows that restraint during a fear state escalates arousal significantly. You're not calming them. You're removing the one thing keeping their stress from becoming panic. The hiding is not a problem to solve. The hiding is the solution. Let them use it. Habit 4, inconsistent scheduler. Cats are creatures of internal clocks so precise they can be unsettling. Milo, a 6-year-old ginger cat in Chicago, began waking his owner at 4:47 a.m. every single day, not because he was hungry, but because that's when breakfast had been served once. Months earlier, when his owner got up early for a flight, one deviation. One morning, Milo never forgot. Oregon State University's Human-Animal Interaction Lab has documented that cats build predictive models of their environment. They're not just reacting, they're anticipating. When feeding, play, and social interaction happen at irregular times, cats can't build that predictive map. The result is chronic low-level anxiety. Not dramatic, not obvious, just a background hum of stress that never fully resolves. And this is the part most people get completely wrong, because the next habit actually looks like you're being a good owner, attentive, present, engaged. Habit 5. Too much forced interaction. You've been away all day. You walk through the door and your cat is right there, or nearby, or somewhere in the house. You pick them up. You talk to them. You bring them to the couch. You want connection. What cats need, behaviorally, is to be the initiator of social contact. Studies published in the journal Applied Animal Behavior Science found that interactions initiated by the cat were significantly longer and more positive than those initiated by the human, even when the human's approach was gentle and the cat complied. Compliance is not the same as wanting. Think about your own experience. A hug you didn't ask for, held a beat too long. You don't pull away, but something in you registers, I didn't choose this. That registration, over time, changes how you feel about the person doing it. Habit 6. Punishment or loud correction. Cat is on the counter. You clap. You say no. You spray water. The cat jumps down. You feel like it worked. It didn't work. The cat left because you became an unpredictable threat, not because it connected the action to the consequence. Cats do not process aversive conditioning the way dogs do. Their cognition is not structured for that chain of logic. I did X, bad thing happened, therefore X is bad. What they process instead is, this human is sometimes safe and sometimes scary. I should be wary. The trust erosion this causes is slow, invisible, and cumulative, which is why the last habit, habit 7, is the one that concerns behaviorists the most. Habit 7, misreading slow blinking and purring as content. Memphis is the well-intentioned habit I mentioned at the beginning, the one that's quietly eroding trust. Purring, we're taught, means happy, but cats also purr when they're in pain, when they're anxious, and when they're attempting to self-soothe. The purr is not a signal to you, it's a neurological self-regulation mechanism. Science. A 2009 study from the University of Sussex identified a distinct solicitation purr embedded with a cry-like frequency that cats use specifically to manipulate human response. It's different from the relaxed purr, and most owners cannot tell them apart. If you've been reading purring as she's happy, you may have been missing the times she's actually telling you she's not. Okay, now forget everything you thought you knew about reading cat contentment, because what comes next reframes all 7 of these habits in a way that changes what they actually mean. Meaning beat. Here's the thing about everything we've just covered. None of it means your cat doesn't love you. None of it means the relationship is broken. What it means is that for thousands of years, we've been projecting human emotional logic onto an animal whose emotional logic is entirely its own. Your cat isn't withholding. It isn't cold. It isn't broken or antisocial or ungrateful. It is communicating constantly, specifically, in a language that we simply haven't been taught to read. Shadow, Pryor's cat, the one she thought was aloof. After she stopped staring and started slow blinking, started letting him come to her, he began sleeping at the foot of her bed within 3 weeks. He hadn't changed. Her behavior had. The love was always there. She just finally started speaking the right language. That's not less. It's different. And once you understand the difference, you'll never look at your cat the same way again. Speaking of which, there's one more layer to this. Because researchers have recently discovered that cats actually do form deep attachment bonds to their owners, the same category of attachment that human infants form to caregivers. They just express it in a way that's almost impossible to see unless you know exactly what to look for. That's next.